If anyone does not have one of the packets that's being handed out, please raise your hand and we'll get it to you. Does everyone have one of these? Keep raising your hands, we'll get it to you. Well, welcome everyone. Those of you who've been away for the summer, welcome back. Those of you who've been working hard, welcome here this morning. I want to thank you for your attendance at this opening faculty and staff meeting. I trust everyone had a safe and productive summer. Much has transpired at Western since my last email message to you last spring. And this summer I've also had a chance to reflect a little bit. It was 25 years ago last week that I graduated from Western with my bachelor's degree. So this has put much of what we'll discuss this morning in a rather interesting perspective for me. I particularly want to offer an enthusiastic welcome to the new members of our campus community. As of today, we have 54 new members of our faculty, and we have 26 new members of our administration and staff. And I would like for all new members of the Western faculty and staff who have joined us since last spring to please stand and let us welcome you to the Western family. Please stand up. Those of you who are new, you will soon come to realize the special character of this family and the bond which exists throughout this campus. I wish for each of you a long and successful tenure on this hill and in this community. Everyone here this morning represents this academic community. So I'm pleased that this many of you gathered to address some important matters which will help us become a better academic community. Much of what we'll address this morning will help us manage our administrative affairs in a more business-like manner so that our academic affairs can be strengthened. Each member of our faculty and staff is an important contributor to the success of this academic community. At the outset this morning, I want to introduce three members of the Board of Regents who are providing particularly strong leadership, and there are other members of our regents here as well. With three individuals who are providing outstanding leadership on the board, the immediate past chair of the Board of Regents, Peggy Loafman. Peggy, if you'll stand, please. Kristen Bell, our new vice chair of the board. And the new chair of the Board of Regents, Cornelius Martin. I would also like for Joy Grambling, our staff regent, Ray Mendel, our faculty regent, and I haven't seen Stephanie. I don't know if Stephanie is here. Stephanie Cosby, our student regent. If Joy and Ray and Stephanie will please stand. Where's Ray? I would also like to acknowledge members of the Western Administrative Council and offer the assurance that this administrative structure, which was put into place last December, has crystallized into a cohesive and interactive group of administrative leaders representing 7 divisions of the university. First and foremost is the leadership provided to our academic community through the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Barbara Birch. The Vice President for Student Affairs, Jerry Wilder. The Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations, now 2½ months into his new duties, Tom Hiles. The Chief Financial Officer, Ann Mead. The General Counsel, who also handles human resources, auditing, equal opportunity, and environmental health and safety, Deborah Wilkins. Our Public Affairs and Government Relations programs are headed by Fred Hensley. Our Director of Athletics, Lewis Mills. And completing the Administrative Council is the Vice President for Information Technology, Charles Anderson. Finally, I would like to introduce and thank our deans. From Ogden College of Science, Technology, and Health, Martin Houston. From the Bowling Green College of Business Administration, Bob Jefferson. From Potter College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, David Lee. David. The Associate Dean in charge of the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences, Sam Evans. From the Community College, Paul Rice. The Dean of the Libraries, Mike Bender. The Dean of Graduate Studies and Extended Campus Programs, Elmer Gray. And our Dean of Student Life and the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs, Howard Bailey. I would also like to acknowledge and express appreciation to the Chair of the Faculty Senate, Arvin Voss. Arvin. And the Chair of the Staff Council, Dana Jacobson. These individuals may head divisions or colleges or groups, and their leadership and abilities are very important. But their contributions and mine are no more important than those of anyone else assembled here today. One of the reasons why I wanted to address everyone on our faculty and staff together is to reiterate the theme I encouraged last spring: one family, one collection of professionals and educators, each with a major role to play in the delivery of quality education for our students and effective service to our constituents. Your individual and collective talents are appreciated. The progress you are making is evident, and I promise you, people are taking notice. There has indeed been considerable progress made over the summer months. I specifically want to touch on several items which I think are of particular importance to each of us. Perhaps the best way to approach each of these important matters is to offer a perspective on my priorities after 10 months in this job. As I've met with each of you in groups or individually, I have listened and observed and analyzed as much of the campus as possible. I have zeroed in on some very distinct priorities, the areas where I will be devoting much of my attention and directing as many available resources as possible. They are compensation and benefits, restoration of our physical plant, enhancing external support, specifically for endowment, improving our capacity for information technology, recruitment and retention of quality students, student support and wages, institutional marketing, and campus attitude. Each of these points I want to discuss with you this morning, each of the points I want to discuss with you this morning will address one or more of these priorities. And I trust everyone by now has the information packets which have been prepared in an attempt to outline several of the initiatives which we will be addressing this morning and which have been addressed in recent months. I want to start with our strategic plan. Since December, Dr. Birch and many of you throughout the academic community, with support from Ms. Mead and her colleagues in Budgets and Planning, have been crafting a strategic plan which will guide our actions between now and the summer of 2003. This strategic plan is distributed to each of you before it is typeset and used in any marketing sort of way and put into publication form. While it's not on the papers you have in front of you, this plan will be called Challenging the Spirit. It was approved by the Board of Regents at its meeting on July 31st. The vision of this plan is clear and precise. In achieving the goals of this strategic plan, Western will emerge and strengthen its position as the best comprehensive university in Kentucky and will take its rightful place among the best in the nation. Our mission is equally succinct: to produce globally competitive graduates and to be of optimum service to our constituents. This mission and the goals in this plan are ambitious, distinctive, and relevant to the desires I've heard you express and which have been expressed by those we serve. The strategic plan focuses on 5 clearly defined categories: increased student learning, developing the student body, assuring high-quality faculty and staff, enhancing responsiveness to constituents, and improving institutional effectiveness. This plan does indeed challenge the Western spirit. It is a living program crafted to actively influence decisions, motivate effort, and channel resources. Shaped by the board-commissioned institutional review conducted early last fall and by higher education legislation in Frankfurt, and by many of the outcomes espoused in the Moving to a New Level plan, this document encourages us to break away from our counterproductive habits, experiment with new approaches, dismantle bureaucratic barriers, nurture our expectations of ambition and success and openness. And it exemplifies enthusiasm for the task at hand. Most importantly, it represents a commitment to this university and all of its members, me and each of you, to achieve national distinction for Western. Several performance indicators in the plan define those outcomes which we will achieve over the next 5 years. Phase 2 of this plan is departmental specific. Campus departments will be given the opportunity to determine how these outcomes are to be achieved, by whom and when. This will be done throughout the fall semester so that we may take to the board at its winter meeting precise accountabilities and timelines. Phase 3 of the plan will be its implementation over the next 4.5 years. This plan is ambitious, but one of the ways to measure our progress is to identify a group of institutions with which we compare our academic and administrative performance. Many of you were involved throughout the spring semester in the identification of your preferences for such a group of peer institutions. Utilizing your input and the input of numerous others, and taking into consideration perspectives of our Board of Regents, and trying to achieve a balance of comprehensive institutions with those institutions in a research or doctoral category, we have pinpointed 10 universities with which we will draw our comparisons over the next several years. These institutions are listed in your material. Our Office of Institutional Research has already begun to seek various points of comparison and, in fact, has already gathered data related to tuition and fees, applicant acceptance rates, ACT scores, faculty-student ratios, graduation rates, retention rates, and alumni giving. I want to commend Bob Cobb and our staff in institutional research for their work in this regard and ask that contacts with the universities on this list for purposes of comparison be coordinated by our Office of Institutional Research. Now, let me be clear in telling you that this will not be the only group with which we will be comparing ourselves. The Council on Post-Secondary Education will continue to have a group of institutions which it will use as the collective peer group for Eastern, Murray, Morehead, Kentucky State, Northern Kentucky, and Western. Likewise, the Southeastern Review Board will require data from a collection of Southeastern institutions, and there will always be the inevitable comparisons to all of the other public institutions in Kentucky. Many of these comparisons will be beyond our control, but our intent at Western is to think national and compare ourselves for our own purposes in our performance and in everything we do on a day-to-day basis. I must tell you that Gordon Davies, the new president of the Council on Post-Secondary Education, has endorsed this concept and will be encouraging ways of comparison over time. He has also encouraged a national perspective and has sent signals of his desire for each institution in Kentucky to have a more statewide influence and to chart its own course for prominence. Also coming into focus this summer was the approval by the Council on Post-Secondary Education of Western's initial program of distinction. In your material, you can see the Provost's July 16 communique to faculty and academic staff. I want to applaud those faculty in Ogden College for their efforts to create a program of distinction which cuts across 10 applied research centers. These centers represent a combination of disciplines throughout our life and physical sciences, and they represent a significant impact on the quality of life throughout our area of Kentucky. These programs involve an optimum number of faculty and students and represent dramatic enhancements to our core curriculum. This program of distinction was thoughtful and a creative response to the process outlined by the Council on Post-Secondary Education. And I am particularly grateful for our capacity to provide immediate matching money from internal and external sources in order to fully claim the money which the state has put on the table for our program of distinction. An important point relates to the $4.2 million available to Western over a 3-year period from 1997-98 through fiscal year 99-2000. Our proposal requested $2.9 million of the $4.2 million reserved for us. Our intention is to come back this year and next year and request the remaining $1.3 million for a second program of distinction, which we have indicated to the Council on Post-Secondary Education to be our journalism and communications program. A full $1.4 million per year is available to us, whether we claim it now or in the future. Our challenge is to balance the recurring and non-recurring strategies each year in the future. If we match with recurring money, the state gives us recurring money, and it goes into the budget base for that program. If we match with non-recurring money, the state gives us non-recurring money, and we match it each year. The one area that has probably risen the most on my list of priorities is that of our physical plant. Having now looked in and around most every building on campus, and our western sites in Glasgow, Elizabethtown, Fort Knox, and in Owensboro, I am increasingly alarmed at the condition of many of our buildings. We have a huge challenge ahead of us, and in my opinion, the challenge is threefold: to restore the structural integrity of the main campus, to restore the architectural heritage of our main campus, and to locate our extended campus programs in the most suitable place. This campus has great character, but unless we ensure the continuation of that character, it will be lost. I'm pleased to outline for you today a list of deferred maintenance and campus improvement projects for the main campus. These projects total $4,653,000. They are projects which have been well researched and prioritized in recent months and are a result of money which we have made available and which the state has made available for these purposes. They're listed in your packet. Specifically, the state has put up $2.1 million for deferred maintenance, provided we identify an equal sum from internal reallocations, specifically for deferred maintenance. We have identified $1,353,000 out of the institution's E&G budget for the projects you see listed in your material. In addition, I specifically asked the Board of Regents at its May meeting to approve an expenditure of $1.2 million from the university's reserve fund. Fortunately, we have accumulated a reserve of nearly $4.8 million. This draw will leave our university reserve at approximately $3.5 million. Therefore, with $2.1 million from the state, $1.3 million from the E&G budget, and $1.2 million from the reserve, we will be immediately funding projects you see listed. And in addition, we have approved funding for a list of capital projects totaling some $14 million. This list does include the work on the South Campus, most of which is complete. And the capital projects list is also in your packet of information. You may also be interested in the priority we will be placing on our building renovations. I do not anticipate that Western Kentucky University will be seeking additional money for new square footage over the next few legislative sessions. I do, however, anticipate being most aggressive in securing state-appropriated funds to renovate key buildings, particularly those buildings which support our program of distinction and define our architectural character, some of which are on the National Register of Historic Places, and all of which speak to our distinctiveness. You see in your packet a page entitled Building Renovation Priorities. In priority order, I believe we need a renovation of Thompson Complex and related facilities. Thompson Complex north and center wings are some 35 years old. Snell Hall will be lost forever if it is not renovated soon. I anticipate pursuing funding for our science facilities in the next legislative session. I next envision a combined project to renovate Van Meter Hall and Gordon Wilson Hall, and then replace Science and Technology Hall with an appropriate memorial to College High. The intent would be to fully utilize for academic purposes the space in Van Meter and Gordon Wilson by creating considerable new square footage for classroom and laboratory space. Once the new Technology and Communications building is complete, I would anticipate the need to bring the academic complex up to date. And finally, I would anticipate before too many years a renovation of Diddle Arena, which would include air conditioning. In the auxiliary budget, we will be attempting to bring about cosmetic enhancements in the Downing University Center and the Garrett Conference Center. Our residence hall renovations are prioritized with McLean Hall, Florence Snyder Hall, and Bates Runner Hall, each in need of complete renovations. Air conditioning is still needed for north, south, east, and west halls. And all the while, we will be addressing ongoing maintenance and repairs needed in the other halls. The physical transformation and renewal of our campus must receive our focused attention for the next several years. But our challenge is even greater in the home-based locations for our extended campus sites. Our programs in Glasgow and Owensboro are located in very old school buildings which have long since been abandoned by the local school systems. Formal planning for new regional post-secondary education centers in Glasgow and Elizabethtown begin next week. Western will partner with the community college and the tech system to create an optimum post-secondary investment in those communities. I've also gone on record in stating that a regional center on the Owensboro Community College campus is our top off-campus priority in the next legislative session. I now want to turn your attention to the matter of traffic and parking on this campus. One of the first and most important issues sitting on my desk when I arrived last November was the matter of student safety on and around the roads surrounding our campus. Specifically, safety along University Boulevard, where 4 of our students have been seriously injured and numerous accidents have occurred in recent years. On November 12, my 3rd day on the job, I was called to a meeting which had been postponed until I arrived. The mayor of Bowling Green, the Warren County Judge Executive, the Kentucky Secretary of Transportation, the president of the Western Student Body, city traffic officials, and others wanted to discuss ways to once and for all solve the safety problem on University Boulevard. No solutions were found. Given that, I was asked to make this among my highest priorities. I took that challenge seriously, and I learned that Western once owned the land in the mid-1960s before giving it to the state to solve some traffic problems on what we now know as University Boulevard. Now, some 33 years later, the state has designed traffic options on Campbell Lane and the Russellville Road area of the campus and has given that property back to Western. After lengthy analysis and negotiation with the state and the city, I am pleased to share with you today the plan through which campus safety will be enhanced, traffic flow and speed reduced, and parking increased. I want to outline for you a series of steps which have begun to unfold in order to address our traffic and parking needs, and you see a campus map on the back side of your packet. We have exchanged 3.4 acres of university land at the corner of Campbell Lane and Industrial Drive, and in exchange for that land, we are receiving a 310-space parking lot next to our intramural fields along Campbell Lane. This lot is nearly complete as we speak at no cost to the institution. In addition, we have received the deed to University Boulevard between Big Red Way and Normal Drive. The state has also shared with us a plan by long range and still on the unmet needs list to connect the Russellville Road, Morgantown Road intersection to University Boulevard at a point near the bleachers behind home plate on the WKU baseball field. This is not on the map you have in front of you. I was just given permission to announce this last Friday afternoon, and the packet that you have was already being printed. We have agreed to provide a full right-of-way behind the purchasing building, and the state has agreed to give us the deed to the stretch of University Boulevard and Russellville Road, which goes under the train trestle. We plan to turn this into green space and once and for all eliminate the flooding street problem on Russellville Road. This will also provide a direct route for campus traffic to the businesses on Russellville Road and Morgantown Road. Again, this particular part of the plan is not included on your map, given our recent discussions with the state. We intend to create a one-way loop around the campus. This loop will be designed to dramatically improve safety conditions for our students, faculty, staff, and visitors. By reducing through traffic and controlling speed, specifically, we are asking the city to approve the making of Normal Drive one way. We hope the city sees the wisdom of such a traffic pattern. This overall plan will also significantly increase the number of perimeter parking places for students, faculty, staff, and visitors. The plan calls for the creation of 4 new parking lots. The one I mentioned along Campbell Lane and 3 on campus. One is between Normal Drive and Mimosa Alley, across from the site where the new Technology and Communications building will be built, directly behind the academic complex and the College of Education. A second lot between Kentucky Street and Adams Street near the Kentucky building. And a new reserved faculty staff lot on the south lawn adjacent to the Downing University Center. The plan calls for a 14th Street connector, which, when complete, will allow us to close Big Red Way to through traffic. Traffic from town from Center Street will then be diverted through 14th Street, around Adams Street to University Boulevard, and eventually directly out to the Russellville Road, Morgantown Road intersection on the route behind the purchasing building. The traffic on Big Red Way will then be limited to traffic which comes over 15th Street in front of Cherry Hall and Van Meter Hall, or access through Dogwood Avenue next to the parking structure. University Boulevard will only be accessible by that traffic which turns left off of Big Red Way, leaving the inside 2 lanes on Big Red Way for turn-in parking. The intersection, until that intersection becomes obsolete with the road behind the purchasing building, will be designed in such a way to allow traffic for major university events to proceed straight on University Boulevard with traffic control. Excuse me, to go straight on Russellville Road with traffic control. This one-way loop of Big Red Way, University Boulevard, and Normal Drive will create, and the 3 new campus parking lots will create approximately 700 new parking places at very little cost to the institution. The city has agreed to construct the 14th Street connector. The state has agreed to do the engineering at the intersection of University Boulevard and Big Red Way until that intersection is removed, when the connector to the Russellville Road, Morgantown Road intersection is complete. And also, the state will engineer the intersection at University Boulevard and Normal Drive. The state, as I said, is covering the cost of the 310 space lot at the intramural fields on Campbell Lane. Paving and striping of these streets, for the most part, is included in the maintenance plan which you have just seen. This plan does address our safety concerns. It does reduce traffic and speed and direction, and it does indeed provide much needed new parking. It also enhances our campus environment and makes us more accommodating to guests. A significant number of these spaces will be reserved for visitors and guests. I know this plan is a lot to absorb this morning, and it will take some time to complete this plan, but except for the Normal Drive approval, the plan is set. The state, the city, and the county have been most helpful. The Board of Regents have approved it in its entirety, and we are underway with it. Much of the work on the new parking lots on campus and Big Red Way changes will take place this year. The plan is part of the 5-year plan which the newly constituted Parking and Transportation Committee is developing. Other details in the committee's plan will be forthcoming, but it will include additional shuttles on campus and to the South Campus, and specifically to the new 310 space lot on Campbell Lane. $120,000 in money from parking fees and fines is being reinvested back into parking and transportation enhancements this year. Specific uses for that money will be outlined by the committee. But again, this is part of our budgeting philosophy of tying revenues and expenses. The next item, which received considerable attention over the summer months, deals with information technology. First, the process related to our technology and communications building is underway, although I must tell you I'm a bit concerned about the protracted 3-year timeline which has been outlined by the state. The architects and engineers have, however, been selected, and site selection will be completed as soon as possible. Site selection within that footprint behind the academic complex and Tate Page Hall. 4 significant things, however, have occurred in recent months which affect the information technology perspective of our faculty and staff. First, I have converted $106,000 from administrative to academic use. Specifically, we have eliminated Jim Ramsey's position upon his departure for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and diverted his salary to a recurring faculty computer replacement fund. This recurring fund will supplement an additional $89,000 that we've devoted to a significant portion of the second important development related to information technology. Dr. Anderson has led an effort to prepare a computer replacement plan through 2005. This plan will provide a new computer for all new faculty each year and an orderly replacement for all faculty equipment over this period of time. Specifically, approximately 100 new machines will be purchased each year, approximately 50 for new faculty and 50 to 75 for existing faculty as prioritized by our academic deans. Our intention is to reach a point where the replacement life for faculty computers does not exceed 5 years. This year, however, the first year of this plan, will see some 240 new computers replaced and at least 100 upgraded. The third important development this summer has to do with internet access for our faculty and staff. With the merger of MCI and WorldCom and the expiration of our MCI contract this year, we have received bids and notice that our contract has expired and that our internet access costs will rise from approximately $3 per account to $13.95 per account per month. This is an annual increase of more than $90,000 for the existing 700 accounts, and we anticipate several new faculty and staff accounts as well. After considerable analysis, our decision is to centrally increase the university's contribution to fund 1/2 of the cost for each member of the faculty and staff for internet access, which is approximately $7 per person per month, and ask that the users, members of the faculty and staff, personally cover the other half, which will be approximately $6.95 per month. We have made it possible for this personal cost to be accommodated through payroll deduction. Heretofore, we were the only university in Kentucky which offered a free benefit to faculty and staff for internet access. And even though our investment as a university has gone from $3 to $7 per individual, we still offer the best faculty and staff benefit of any other public college or university in Kentucky. The fourth information technology development relates to a new administrative computing system which will provide us with expanded capability in a new student information system called Banner 2000, which will provide total access to admissions, registration, and advisement on the web. A new institutional advancement system will greatly enhance our external capability, and a new mail system will bring faculty, staff, and students together with total compatibility. Another matter related to technology which is receiving considerable worldwide attention these days is the matter of email. The frequency of campus email is increasing, I encourage you to respect this medium and make every effort to be brief. It is important for us to remember that email is a very public form of communication. Any message is always retrievable. It is important to use good judgment and respect the receiver's right to read messages in a timely manner, but the receiver's timetable may or may not be consistent with the sender's expectation. Just remember, treat it like a memo. If you wouldn't put it in writing, then you shouldn't put it on email. Next, I want to acknowledge the challenge we have with student wages. I'm concerned about the compensation our students earn for their work on campus, particularly at the graduate level. Graduate assistants are vital to a thriving graduate and research program. We have a challenge. For the past 10 years, Western's graduate assistantship stipends have been flat. Meanwhile, the in-state tuition paid by graduate assistants has doubled. This year, almost one half, 67 out of 157 of our graduate assistants will receive stipends of $4,000 or less and will pay $2,460 in tuition. That leaves about $100 a month for living. We must become more competitive with other universities for quality graduate students. At the undergraduate level, I encourage you to accommodate every student who has a demonstrated need to work. Let's ensure that our external student work resources are fully utilized, and I hope we have enough job opportunities to employ all students who want to work, but especially those who have to work. At its meeting on July 31st, the Board of Regents received the board-commissioned athletic review. The board first requested this review in the early fall. I must commend the consultant which the board retained to lead this study, Dr. Fred O'Beer, the Chancellor Emeritus at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and the campus committees who worked diligently over the spring and summer to complete a very thorough analysis of our athletics program. That review produced 30 recommendations. These recommendations range from budget assessment to facilities needs to Title IX to private support to the number of sports we offer. The report was generally positive. It was entirely constructive. And the entire report with recommendations and related committee material is available in the library, in my office, and in the athletic department. All recommendations will be analyzed and addressed. Most will be implemented over time. I will be submitting a plan to the Board of Regents there too. I will specifically seek input from Lewis Mills, our athletic director, from Steve White, our faculty athletics representative, and from Lewis Berman and his colleagues on the Hilltopper Athletic Foundation regarding input germane to those particular interests. If you have comments in this regard, please refer to one of these three individuals. In mentioning our Board of Regents, I think it is important for you to know that we are strategically conducting our board meetings in cities where members of our board reside. This summer's meeting was conducted in Owensboro and was the subject of considerable media attention in the Owensboro area. This is particularly important given the Owensboro residence for Regents Earl Fisher and Sarah Hulse. Our meeting this fall on October 30 will be in Louisville, where we will be pleased to accommodate our two newest regents, Ronnie Sheffer and Jim Tennell, both from Louisville. The Louisville market is extremely important to Western, and we have our work cut out for us in recapturing some of the magic which Western has enjoyed in the Louisville area over the years. I will also request that the board conduct the winter 1999 meeting in Glasgow, home of Regent Kristen Bale, the new vice chair of our board. We will return to Bowling Green for the spring 1999 meeting, where, of course, three constituent regents, Ray Mendel, Joy Gramling, and Stephanie Cosby reside, along with the chairman of our Board of Regents, Cornelius Martin, and the immediate past chair, Peggy Loafman. Then, in the summer of 1999, I will request that we meet in Elizabethtown the home of Regent Lois Gray. The geographic visibility which these meetings create is important to fulfilling the mission and goals outlined in our strategic plan. I want to encourage anyone to attend our board meetings. New locations do not in any way reduce the manner in which any member of the Western family is welcome at any meeting of our Board of Regents. A new sexual harassment policy is to be approved by the Administrative Council and in place by the first day of classes on August 24. A little longer break than you thought there, didn't it? August 24. This policy is the direct result of one of the recommendations from the Women's Task Force report, which is, of course, available for campus-wide viewing. The objectives of the new sexual harassment policy are to protect employees in general, protect the university, and protect the rights of the individual being investigated. Progress has been made, not only in the context of this policy, but in the achievement of equity pay targets, the balancing of senior administrative appointments, and, I trust, a general enhancement of our collective sensitivity. This campus must lead by example in the nurturing of an environment of respect and tolerance of differences. Differences whether they be gender, race, age, ethnic, or geographic. Very simply, we must treat not just our own colleagues, but all individuals who cross this campus with dignity. If everyone is held by the same standard and treated fairly and equally and honestly, then we will have few problems which divert us from our mission of learning, developing, and growing. We will deal with specific instances relating to those who do not show proper respect for colleagues, promptly, forthrightly, and with seriousness. Make no mistake that we want any individual to feel comfortable disclosing a problem. In addition to the officials identified in the policy, we will be appointing ombudsmen in the colleges and among the staff and administration to receive confidential concerns and offer counsel. This sexual harassment policy goes into effect next week. The policy is referenced in the faculty handbook, and it is on our website. It calls for swift action when physical or verbal harassment is proven to exist. This policy is intended to serve as a guide for acting on present and future actions. Those of you interested in taking courses, you will want to review the new faculty and staff tuition waiver policy, now approved and in effect. This policy has been under consideration for several months. It integrates the policy of the Council of Post-Secondary Education along with the perspectives of our classified staff council. The policy provides full-time employees with tuition waivers for up to 6 hours per semester or summer term at Western or any of the other public institutions in Kentucky. Part-time employees may also take up to 3 hours after a proper period of employment. The policy applies only to courses offered for credit and requires the employee to maintain a 2.2 grade point average to be eligible. All employees must also remain employed throughout the term of the class. With the opening of this academic year, we're also implementing a new policy for administrative and staff pay raises. In the past, most administrative salaries could be increased at any time during the year, assuming available dollars. Faculty, on the other hand, are generally limited to the academic review process. In the interest of fairness and equity and efficiency, increases in staff and administrative compensation may now only occur twice a year, January 1 and July 1. The only exceptions are for job changes or promotion, or significant new duties, or fulfillment of grant requirements, or perhaps a critical situation when a firm offer has been extended by another employer, and in those cases, I must sign off on the action. The final item that occurred over the summer relates to our new budget model, which went into effect on July 1. Budget centers are now fully empowered to prioritize departmental resources, make priority decisions, and save your money from one year to the next. The administration will not collect fund balances from the 7 administrative divisions of the university. Each division will be expected to manage its own assets effectively. Now, what this means is that there is no more central fund to come to for those purchases you seek. Any central resources received from new revenues or from unrestricted appropriations will be used to address campus priorities outlined earlier in these remarks. A budget carry-forward policy is being developed and will be completed in the next few weeks, and there are some caveats. In giving this budget capacity to the campus units, we have dramatically reduced our ability to fund major projects which have typically come from campus-wide fund balance accumulations. Given this, I will look to the largest budget centers to fund physical plant needs in their areas with their carry-forward reserves. I will review divisional expenditure plans for carry-forward money, and I will retain approval or veto authority over divisional carry-forward expenditures above $10,000. An additional caveat relates to the recent phenomenon in Frankfurt, which requires the institution to produce matching money to qualify for certain state appropriations. The new Western budget model, while good for the budget center, makes it nearly impossible to produce matching money. We must retain the right to tax carry-forward money in the divisions if that is the only way we can produce matching money for state appropriations. The only way we can produce matching money for state appropriations. A good example is the $2.1 million for deferred maintenance, which came to us this year. I won't leave that kind of money in Frankfurt when offered. One major decision which affects us all and yet to be made has been receiving careful analysis for the last several months, and that's the matter of institutional insurance. Specifically, let me update you on the status of employee health insurance, either self or fully funded. The State Health Care Alliance is dissolving on January 1, 1999. We must choose between a fully funded or a self-funded insurance program. A request for proposals for self-insured and fully insured programs was distributed to the private sector on June 5. 7 companies submitted proposals. 6 were for self-funded programs. A committee of 10 faculty and staff members has been appointed, including representatives from both the Faculty Senate and the Staff Council. The committee met on June 22 to begin the review of proposals. Meetings are continuing in this regard. A consultant has been assisting the committee. The committee anticipates forwarding a recommendation to the Administrative Council this month. We hope to be in a position to take a recommendation to the Board of Regents in September and bring this process to a conclusion in October. I commend Tony Gleason and his colleagues in Human Resources for their work in communicating throughout the campus. I'm satisfied that sufficient information is available to make a sound business decision. If we decide to go with a self-insured program, you have my assurance that any money saved or generated from the program will be put into a restricted reserve account to be used to draw from in the event that claims become excessive. If that fund grows sufficiently, then any draws unrelated to claims will only be used to limit premium costs for employees or enhance employee benefits. This fund will not be a fund to be used for any other university purposes. I hope our course of action puts us in a position to stem the inflationary spiral of premium costs and improve our compensation and benefits capacity. There are 4 off-campus priorities for me, which I hope are priorities for Western, and I trust important to each of you. The first deals with our community. Before we can expect the Bowling Green community to fully embrace Western, we must first fully embrace the Bowling Green community. I encourage all of you to become as active as you can in the Bowling Green community. Support our local businesses and our local civic programs. People will remember each of these external initiatives is the importance for all of us to adopt a more service-oriented culture. For the most part, I have seen faculty and staff who are hungry to help Western achieve its full potential. There have been times, however, when attitudes among some departments and individuals have left me wondering just how much improvement is really desired. If we are to improve service programs like housing, dining, security, facilities, advising, registration, orientation, athletic tickets, and on, must be hungry to meet the needs of those we serve. How can we be more accessible and more service-minded during the 8-hour day and in evenings and on weekends or whenever services are needed? I challenge you to explore ways to expand how you think you can behave with each other and those on whom we depend, our students, our constituents, and the public. Let's make Western an institution known for our service-oriented culture. When you get an inquiry, get over the immediate frustration of being interrupted and help the caller or visitor. If you cannot help them directly, help them get to the right person or right place. Let's stop the Western runaround. How can you help whoever needs your help, whether it relates to you or not? I challenge you to treat those with whom you work on and off campus as though our jobs depended on it. In large measure, they do. I would also like to see a greater sense of urgency to achieve the goals of our strategic plan or whatever goals you and your department have determined to be important. We have real problems which will not go away unless we, you and me, unless we both do something about them. And you know what? I'm probably not going to be aware of many of them. Ours is a mission worth achieving. The future holds great promise at Western, but only if we leave some old habits behind. Our goals are ambitious, but they are attainable with extraordinary effort. If we all do our part, we can all share in a great sense of accomplishment over the next few years. I will attempt to be fair and honest and straightforward in my deliberations, and I'll expect the same from you. We may not always agree, but I will hope that we will always agree that we respectfully try to do the right thing, given the knowledge at hand. The right thing for the people involved and for Western. I'm going to work hard and try to make good use of my time, and I expect the same from you. I'm accessible, and you should be as well. I will maintain a positive attitude and a desire to find a better way, and I expect the same from you. The future leaders of Kentucky and the nation and the world sit right now, or in a few days, in our classrooms. Up and down this hill stroll future political reformers, captains of industry, entrepreneurs, writers, artists, inventors, teachers, and maybe most importantly, mothers and fathers. They are influenced, good or bad, by every aspect of life on this campus. Affected by you and by me. Yes, we have problems to solve and goals to achieve, but let's make sure that we savor the sparkling moments that happen on this campus, the delights that we experience along the way. Faculty achievements, splendid books, outstanding performances, campus improvements, winning teams, library and museum treasures, the delight of concepts discovered and learned. There is immense satisfaction in being a member of a community of outstanding faculty colleagues, devoted staff members, bright students, loyal alumni, and supportive regents. And indeed, generous benefactors. All of these people who make this campus rich. And above all is our high purpose of learning and discovery and transformation. What a privilege to be part of such a community. What an extraordinary opportunity we have to define the goals of this community and achieve them. We are about serious work and we have much progress to make, but Western's time is now. Not tomorrow. Be ambitious, both for Western and for yourself. You have the authority. Now take the initiative. Let's be successful together and make this a banner year for Western. Thank you for your patient attention. We're dismissed.